grading every NFL free agency signing. Part 1. Day 1 of NFL free agency 2026. It's March 9th. These are my grades for your team. Every signing, every team, my thoughts, analysis, and reaction. Let's go. If you're ready, Gronk, spike the like button. And let's begin with the New York Jets. And I'm going to grade every single signing and then give my overall thoughts on every team, going team by team. Beginning with the early trade of Minkah Fitzpatrick to the New York Jets. Minkah signs a new deal with the Jets. It's a 3-year, $40 million deal. That trade was for a 7th-round pick inside the AFC East from the Dolphins to the Jets. Now, I really like this trade for the Jets. First of all, he's going to play that robber role, potentially free safety role for Aaron Glenn's defense, especially if Aaron Glenn is still looking to play a lot of man-to-man coverage. He could be that guy that covers over the top, maybe lurks underneath. But regardless, Minkah is extremely versatile. He's extremely experienced, and he's also highly intelligent. And remember, the Jets couldn't turn the football over, at all last year. So this is a guy that can get his hands on the football. Hasn't the last 2 years, only 2 picks over the last 2 years. But we remember in Pittsburgh in a similar system, a lot of man-to-man coverage, cover one in particular. We saw Minkah Fitzpatrick get a lot of interceptions. That could come inside this defense. He played for the defensive coordinator in Miami. He was the secondary coach there. So some ties together. Minkah was actually really good last year. PFF had him as a top 10 safety in the NFL. So I really like this move. It's a very affordable contract. He's also an excellent leader as well. I think this is a borderline A-, B+ type of trade for the New York Jets. I think this might have been their best move, and they made plenty on day one. Let's get to the rest. Demario Davis. This was confusing for me for both sides. So Demario Davis, he signed a 2-year, $22 million deal that included $15 million fully guaranteed. Now, I don't hate the idea of upgrading your linebacker group, but I don't love the idea of signing such an old player for a team that is kind of rebuilding. And it didn't make a lot of sense, from a personal NFL fan perspective, to see Demario Davis go to the Jets. It doesn't really allow him to compete for any sort of Super Bowl championship anytime soon. It was about maybe returning home, the place that he got drafted, and maybe he really likes the New York area. So for me, I don't love this signing. I think Davis is clearly a still very good linebacker. You could argue he's still a top 15, top 10 linebacker in the NFL, and he's a great blitzer. He's a great downhill run defender, which is going to help against the Bills and the Patriots inside this division, and even now the Miami Dolphins with Malik Willis as well. So the fit's fine, and obviously Davis and Aaron Glenn have ties from New Orleans, so there's a clear fit, but I just feel like it doesn't make sense for either side given the trajectory of Davis's career, where he's at, and then I disagree. So I would give it a B, because I just can't see how you would give this more than that. Then we have David Onyemata. Similarly, I don't understand why David Onyemata would go to the Jets outside of his familiarity with Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, former Saints guy involved in Sean Payton and Dennis Allen and that whole regime. So there's a tie there. And obviously the Jets needed interior defensive line help to continue to strengthen that. And actually now it's extremely strong with Devondre Sweat and David Onyemata. You're going to be able to stop the run. Don't worry about that. And you got two incredibly large human beings on the interior of your defense. David Onyemata only signed a 1-year deal. So I actually like this one more than Demario Davis because it's less financially restrictive. It's a $10.5 million deal, 9.65 guaranteed. So nearly all guaranteed. So it's a nice deal for David Onyemata, certainly. I would look at it as he can go somewhere else at 34, 35 years old next year. He's 33 right now. He's still a really good defensive tackle. He's slippery. He's long. He's physical. He's going to upgrade their run defense, which is a big part of what Aaron Glenn wants to be, is physical, tough, and a lot better against the run this year. So I like this one. I would give this a B+. I like that it's a 1-year deal. I like that they didn't go too far with it. Next, Kingsley from the Green Bay Packers. Underrated pass rusher on the edge. Took Parsons' spot when Parsons went down. Was kind of complimentary in their rotation to Rashan Gary and Micah Parsons. Has seen some starting snaps. Will get starting opportunity with the Jets, potentially replacing Jermaine Johnson. This is a 1-year, $10 million deal. I didn't quite see how much was guaranteed, but regardless, I think this is a fine pickup. I think maybe $10 million if like 9 or 8 is guaranteed. That might be a little bit much. And I would have preferred if they would have signed him to like a 2 or 3 year deal, because this could actually be a player that is kind of like a Kayvon Chason for the Patriots last year, like a really nice gem of a pickup. He has the potential to really develop into something extra, but at the very least, I think he's a good rotation edge player that brings a little bit of punch to your edge. So I would say this is like a B+, like potentially, I would have preferred longer term, because he's 26 years old. He hasn't had a lot of production, only 11.5 sacks in 4 seasons, but he's been a rotation player. So I think there's a lot of upside here. I really like this move. I'd give this a B+. So far, we're looking pretty good with the Jets, and this is all off the top of the dome with my grades, by the way. Joseph Ossai, it's how I feel emotionally. It's how I feel inside about what your team did. Joseph Ossai, this one I'm not so sure about in terms of the term and the money. $36 million, 3 years. That's very comparable to what the Patriots gave Draymond Jones. Ossai is much younger. I think 2 or 3 years younger. He's about 26, 27. But Draymond Jones is far more effective, far better player, more well-rounded. Ossai has had one okay season. He's been okay on the opposite side of Trey Hendrickson at times, including even in the years past where the Bengals were a pretty good team and a decent defense. But only 14.5 sacks in 4 years, where he has played a pretty large role on that Bengals defensive front. So he's going to be more their pass rushing type. And the concern here is that they don't really have great pass rushing. So they obviously needed to improve that edge position. I'm also unsure if he's the best fit. I could see how maybe Kingsley with his length and his power is a good fit for Aaron Glenn's defense. This is more of a finesse rusher in Ossai. But again, I don't hate it. I'd probably say this is more of a C+. I think he's just fine. I would have expected more from him in Cincinnati, given how much opportunity he was given. He never really, to me, showed up in a big way for them. So C+. Overall, the Jets did pretty well for themselves, I would say. The Dallas Cowboys are next up. We're going to begin with the trade that they made. That is for Rashan Gary. We brought his name up already. Rashan Gary, this trade for me is a really nice one for the Cowboys. Now, financials will have to be figured out on Dallas's end. Rashan Gary has a pretty expensive contract, but I always feel like he's kind of underrated by the general public because he's not necessarily a sack-producing edge player, but he is a very well-rounded one. And what we've heard from Jerry Jones consistently over the last couple of years is how much better he wants to become as a run defense and an overall defensive outfit. What I really like about this move is that Rashan Gary, you only gave up a late round pick in 2027. So it's not even a 2026 pick. It's a 2027 4th round pick. That's basically nothing to get Rashan Gary without having to negotiate for him in free agency for potentially more money, especially short term. And he already fits the defense. He has familiarity with the coaching staff, so he's going to be able to fit the scheme. They know how to use him. What I like about Rashan Gary is he's incredibly versatile and he's incredibly powerful. This is one of the strongest human beings in the NFL. His ability to set the edge and just straight up overpower tackles in the NFL is ridiculous. That's why for his size, which he is an edge rusher size, he could play defensive tackle. That's how strong he is. And he actually does that in certain sub-package situations. So I think it makes the Cowboys much more dangerous from a sub-package personnel perspective. I think it makes them much better on early downs against the run. And I think it just makes them much more consistent up front, which is what they really needed to become. So I think this is based on the financials being maybe a little too expensive. I think this is a B+, a strong B+ for the Dallas Cowboys. A really good start to the day for them. Then they went out and they added Jaelan Thompson at safety from the Arizona Cardinals, who's a really well-rounded defensive back. And apparently they really liked him on the crossover tape that they were watching when evaluating these free agents. 3 years, $36 million. They were actually studying other players, meaning crossover tape. And then they found that Jaelan Thompson was really impressive, and they kind of lucked into him. But $12 million per year for Jaelan Thompson, a solid contract for a good player that deserves it. He's been good for a long time in Arizona. And what I really like about Thompson is he's pretty much scheme proof. He's played through a lot of regimes and coaching staffs and defensive staffs, and he's played in a lot of hybrid systems. So he's had to show off his versatility, whether it be as a box safety, where he's a very reliable and consistent tackler, whether it be free safety in two deep centric systems and coverages, or whether it be as a nickel defender. He can do everything. So being that they're going to play more of a Vic Fangio style, well, Jonathan Gannon, of course, was a Vic Fangio disciple from Philadelphia, ran a very similar system. He coached Thompson in Arizona. So Jaelan Thompson, really like this move. I don't know what that was. I never cough on videos. I apologize. Jaelan Thompson, 3 years, $36 million. Two really nice moves to upgrade Dallas's defense and bring physical, in Jaelan Thompson's case and Rashan Gary's case, versatile defenders. And Thompson is an excellent tackler, which will really help Dallas, I think, in their run game and their middle of the field defense. Okay, next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're beginning with the teams that made the trades. Michael Pittman was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He also signed a little bit of an extension. So a new 3-year, $59 million deal for Michael Pittman to basically become the number 1 possession receiver in Pittsburgh, the number 2 overall receiver opposite DK Metcalf. I really enjoy how these two will complement each other. DK Metcalf with his physicality and his speed and his vertical dimension. Michael Pittman with his body control, hands, consistency. He's a very good possession receiver. He can catch like 80 to 100 balls per season. And he's a very strong slot player as well, where he actually might become more functional in this offense because he oftentimes kind of being asked to play the X in Indy. And I think he could be better in the slot, actually, if they want to use him there. But the Colts also opened up $24 million in cap space, so it was a good trade for the Colts. And I kind of saw this coming as soon as they signed Alec Pierce to like a ludicrous contract, like $120 million. You knew it was going to happen. So I really like this trade for Pittsburgh. I do think, though, that is equally as good for the Colts. So just throwing that out there for Indianapolis' sake. This is more of a grade from Pittsburgh's perspective. I would give it a B. I think it's obviously an upgrade at the position of need. I think, though, you know, I don't even really know what the compensation is. I still haven't seen it. If anyone knows, let me know in the comment section below, and you might with more time that we've been allowed. But yeah, I would give it a solid B, maybe even a B+. I think this is a good move for them, a clear position of need, and a clear possession receiver that I think is a huge need for them. Just like a chain mover, a consistent force at the receiver position. But his numbers at times have been inflated. He's not quite as good as some of his statistical production has shown in previous years. He's not extremely explosive or a big game changer. I think you could get other players that could give you similar production with similar volume. But that being said, they're rare to find in this package of size. And that's what Michael Pittman brings. So I'd give it like a B, B+, maybe a little expensive for this style of player. Then we've got Jamel Dean, which might have been the better move by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love Jamel Dean. I always have. 3 years, $36 million. This is an excellent move by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get a huge upgrade at the corner position, and I think he's instantly their number 1 corner. At the very least, he's 1B opposite Joey Porter Jr. Both, what I love about them both, they're both very long-armed, they're very good in press coverage, and they're both tall. So they both have incredible, size. And Jamel Dean is very fast. That's one thing that separates him from a Joey Porter Jr. Now, he is older, but he has a lot of experience. He's won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. He's played, I think, better in zone coverage-based systems. He's always played under Todd Bowles, but primarily better in zone than man, I would say. And last year was his best season of his career by far. He was actually one of the best corners in the league last year. I think he led the NFL in passer rating allowed, completion percentage allowed, numerous statistics, and he's very good in particular in cover 2, which is going to be the base coverage for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. So I think this is an excellent pickup. 3 years, $36 million, very affordable. He actually gets less money than some of these free agents I've already talked about. So yeah, I think that is an A to me. That's an A contract, an A deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even if he's just a CB2, which I think is his floor, I think this is an excellent deal. Tua Tagovailoa, we're going to go with the Atlanta Falcons, who signed a ton of players today. Tua being the biggest name, obviously the quarterback, a 1-year minimum deal. Now, what makes this contract easy to swallow from my perspective as someone that is not a fan of Tua and would never kind of warrant your team signing this guy because I don't think he's that good. I think he's oftentimes overrated and has been for a very long time. The minimum deal makes it easy to digest as a high-end backup quarterback, maybe even the starter, depending on Michael Penix's progression off of his injury. Now, I personally like Michael Penix more because I think he has a stronger arm. He's more physically capable, especially more dangerous as a passer downfield. But Tua can manage an offense. He can get the ball out really well. And what he can do, especially with Bijan Robinson and Drake London, is he can quickly distribute the football to guys in space. And I think he'll be able to function in Stefanski's offense that is very play action driven. And again, he's going to be extremely cheap. Now, what you have to always worry about Tua is his injury history. If he is going to be the primary starter, he isn't a very reliable one because he oftentimes gets hurt. He has a very long history of concussions, but all of that is, with the contract, it's not as concerning. So I would give that independent signing. Because here's the other thing I would say about this deal. Like, I think some people could see this as like a B+ or an A. But from my perspective, you're signing Tua instead of signing some other guys like Kyler, for an example, who I would prefer. So you have to always, like, I would probably rather have Joe Flacco. I'm not going to lie. So I think it's like a B, like maybe C+. Like, I think it's just okay. Because I don't know if this is their last answer at quarterback, which maybe has me a little concerned. Then we have Zaccheaus, Chicago Bear last year. You guys know him well. Former Atlanta Falcon, played there, played well for you guys. Obviously has familiarity with Matt Ryan, who's now involved with the Falcons organization. I did not see the money here. I assume it's a 1-year deal. It was just one of the first signings of the day. I thought Zaccheaus played really well. In fact, when I look back at his numbers from last year, I thought they were way too low considering how much of an impact he made for the Chicago Bears. And then the year previous, he played really well for Washington. I just think he's generally been a very underrated player that can easily be a third option in a passing game. And he's a consistent big play contributor, a third down chain mover. He's a good slot receiver in particular. And we saw kind of a trend here for the Falcons with slot receivers and middle of the field playmakers. And Zaccheaus, I think this is a really solid signing. Now, he's not going to be a game changer, so I can't give it an A. But based on the player you're getting, the role he's fitting, I think this is also an offense that he suits. So I would say this is like a B+, in my opinion, for this role player. Then next, you've got Jahan Dotson, who they signed to a little bit more of a substantial contract, 2 years, $15 million with 10 guaranteed, meaning he's going to have a role. Jahan Dotson and Zaccheaus are both mostly slot middle of the field contributors. Dotson's been stuck in Philadelphia, which has kind of hindered his ceiling because he's been playing behind A.J. Brown. He's been playing behind Devontae Smith in a very run-heavy offense the last 2 years, and he's basically been a secondary contributor on a very, very good team. And now he's going to have an opportunity to play a more, a bigger role, what he was kind of drafted to do as a first-round pick. This could end up being a really good deal for them. This could be a steal. I haven't seen anything substantial from Dotson the last couple of years that makes me believe it will be a steal. I would give it a B as well. It is a decent amount of guaranteed money, and I thought that him and Zaccheaus are a little bit of overlap and kind of the same sort of deal and same sort of player. Dotson's more physical, and I think he can take contact better, but I would say they're both slot receivers, but they're both good depth options behind Drake London after losing Darnell Mooney. So maybe Zaccheaus gives you more of that vertical, while Dotson gives you more of that intermediate, but I would say this is like a B solid, maybe a C+. Austin Hooper, I didn't see much from Austin Hooper last year on the Patriots to warrant that he should really be involved in an NFL offense at this point. The one thing I can say about Austin Hooper, he knows Stefanski, he knows the offense. He played for him in Cleveland. He was pretty productive in Cleveland with the Browns. He's a former Atlanta Falcon, high draft pick, played in a Super Bowl with them as a rookie, I believe. $3.25 million on a one-year deal is not much, for a backup tight end, a lower end backup tight end who has really nice hands, who is crafty in terms of finding space and beating zone coverages. I think in some ways he complements Kyle Pitts well. The one thing I'd say in a negative fashion is he's not a very good blocker. So he's just, to me, it's not like, especially at this age, it really helps you with Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts is not blocking either. So I'd say this is a C+ overall. Next, we've got Cameron Thomas, another, low-key signing by the Falcons. Cameron Thomas had one of his best seasons in the NFL last year for the Cleveland Browns in a complimentary defensive end role for the defense. 1 year, $3.1 million. Cameron Thomas, another guy that has ties to Stefanski, obviously played under Stefanski with the Browns. Thomas obviously really enjoyed playing, there in Cleveland for Stefanski, so that's probably why he joined this defense. I did think that the Falcons needed to add some edge depth, so I do agree with this signing. 1 year, $3.1 million, it doesn't hurt you at all. I'll give it a C+, maybe a B, B-. Jake Bailey, the punter. Honestly, I kind of feel like Jake Bailey's been one of the weaker punters in the NFL in recent years. He started his career with my Patriots and was a pretty darn good punter, but he kind of fallen off since. 3 years, $9 million, 5 guaranteed, fairly cheap deal for a consistent NFL punter. He's NFL caliber, but I don't know if he's worth paying necessarily. I don't think he's better than the replacement punter necessarily. I'd probably give this a C. Then the kicker, Nick Folk, who's been ageless, 41 years old, 20th NFL season, 2-year deal with the Falcons. The Falcons have really struggled with consistency at kicker, especially with Younghoe Koo falling off the face of the earth last year, unfortunately. For all of us NFL fans, that was one of my favorites in the league. But Nick Folk has been one of the most consistent kickers in the NFL and honestly doesn't miss under 50 yards. Extremely reliable, and especially given his age playing in a dome, he doesn't miss. This guy, he's a really good signing. I would honestly give this, I know he's a kicker, I'd give this an A-. He's missed 2 kicks over the last 3 years. That's how good he's been. And he played for New England not long ago, so I've seen him, plenty. I feel like Nick Folk is as consistent as it gets, especially under 50 yards. So very good signing by the Falcons, special teams wise. Now, let's transition to my Patriots. Draymond Jones to New England was one of the early signings of the day. I would give this a B for the Patriots. I like Draymond Jones. I really like players in general that are extremely versatile and unique in nature. Draymond Jones is 3 years, $39 million, which I think is a nice contract. It's very affordable, and he's a starting caliber edge rusher. I think some analysts actually like him more than I do. I think he's a good player. What we've seen throughout his career is he is so versatile that at times he can be schematically false in terms of the way teams utilize him. Last year for the Ravens, he was primarily utilized as a stand-up edge rusher, but he can also rush from the interior. He's a rare edge rusher in the fact that he weighs in at about 270, 280 pounds, depending on how much weight he can put on in an offseason. He actually started his career as a 3-4 defensive end, and kind of over the last couple of years has morphed into a stand-up edge rusher. So that speaks to his versatility. So given that this is the Patriots, the king of the versatility, and given that Mike Vrabel is the one involved in signing him, you might want to bump this up to a B+, just because he's probably going to know how to use this type of player. And I could see him being used on early downs as a strong edge setter. Think of Keon White, but just a better player. You know what I'm saying? And then he could also move inside and rush the quarterback as well. The one interesting thing will be, how is he used in those situations? Because we already have Barmore right now. For now, we'll see. And then Milton Williams. So it'll be fascinating to see how this edge rotation, this D-line builds. But Draymond Jones is a good player coming off a career-high season in sacks with 7 and pressures with 55. I'd say it's a B plus for the Patriots with their first signing of free agency. Their second signing was Reggie Gilliam from the Bills. I think this is actually an A-. The Patriots need a fullback in Josh McDaniels' offense, and they didn't really have one last year, which is why Khyiris Tonga was playing fullback, a defensive tackle / nose tackle for the Patriots, was playing fullback in really key situations. And also the other fullback that they were throwing out there, who's essentially a receiver body type. It didn't make a lot of sense. But Reggie Gilliam, 3 years, up to $12 million, $6 million guaranteed. The Patriots' run game was always at its best with a fullback like a Heath Evans or, later on James Devlin is the famous one. And Gilliam has been one of the best fullbacks in one of the best run games in the NFL over the last few years. He's also got some speed to him as well. Like, he could take some carries if need be, or catch a pass or two if need be. But he's an excellent run blocker. I think PFF had him as the top fullback run blocker in the league. So I'd actually say this is like an A-. If he were like a different position that was more valuable, I'd probably give it an A. But I really like his fit within Josh McDaniels' system, which I love seeing that heavy I formation with a fullback from Josh McDaniels. Next, we've got Kenneth Walker, a huge signing, maybe the headline of the day, to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Super Bowl MVP signed for a 3-year, $43 million deal, up to $45 million. Guaranteed, 28 guaranteed. He's the 4th highest paid running back in the NFL. The 3 that are above him are all Hall of Famers: Saquon, McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry. So Kenneth Walker obviously getting rewarded. I am not sure about this fit. As I examined throughout the offseason, I kind of felt like this was a heavy rumor, and I just never really bought it because, one, the Chiefs have a lot of needs, including right tackle, receiver, including defensive line, and secondary. So they have a lot of needs that they need to spend money on. Now they've spent a ton of money on Kenneth Walker. They also re-signed Travis Kelce today for like $12 million. Congratulations, his return to the NFL. One more year with Taylor Swift in the NFL for us NFL fans. But, it's nice to see Travis back for one last season, one last go-around. But Kenneth Walker, he's an amazing player. He's an incredible talent. He's one of my 5 favorite running backs to watch in the NFL. His juice is incredible. His break tackle ability is next to Bijan for the best in the NFL. His jump cuts are sensational. Chiefs fans are going to really enjoy this guy. Best running back they've had since Jamal Charles by a mile. And he's explosive. And the way he fits the offense is he's excellent as an explosive runner. He's excellent as a screen player. He's a fine receiver. He's nothing special. He can take swing passes and dump offs and make something of it. But he's not going to be like James White or anything like that. Also, I do question the amount that the Chiefs play out of the gun, how effective their run game can truly be, unless, they're under center more often this year. Maybe that's something they'll evolve with Eric Bieniemy returning, but he's even more gun-centric. So I don't really love the fit from a run game perspective, but the one thing it does offer is a real threat in the backfield that complements Patrick Mahomes and can provide real home run ability, and that is going to make defenses shift the way they play. So there's pros, there's cons, and it is expensive for a running back. I would say this is like a B, because I think it's an excellent player, but a weird situation, and also you wonder if this was the right time for the Chiefs to spend on this position. Khyiris Tonga for the Chiefs, I actually kind of hated this when I saw it because I don't like the Chiefs. And I was like, oh man. But Tonga, was on the Patriots last year. 3 years, $21 million, 14 guaranteed. I think this is like a B+. Tonga is a good player. He was a lot cheaper in New England, though. He earned this money. He was excellent for the Patriots. I think he's a better pass rusher than given credit for. You look at him as a body type, and just the archetype that he is, and he's much quicker than I think he's given credit for as a nose tackle. He can actually add some juice as a pass rusher, and he's an excellent run defender, but he also plays with a great ability to penetrate due to his power and quickness combination. I think he's going to make the Chiefs a lot better up front. I think he's an upgrade over what they've had, at that nose tackle position where they've just been getting by with guys like Mike Pennell. He's going to be a nice complement to Chris Jones and take a lot off his plate in terms of the run game assignments. So Tonga, I think, is a really nice signing for them. I think this is like a B+, A-. Okay. Jaelan Watson to the Rams, which I think is their lone move of the day, but obviously another huge one for their secondary. Super Bowl champion Jaelan Watson, formerly of the Chiefs, 3-year, $51 million, 34 guaranteed. He's a great player. Great's maybe strong. A very good corner in the NFL with excellent length, man-to-man skills, has played in a hybrid system. Probably playing more zone with the Rams, you would think, but I think with the additions of McDuffie and Watson, I'll be fascinated to see how much more man the Rams potentially do play this season, especially we're going to find out who the other corner will be there, but their safeties are excellent. That defense is scary up front, so this defense is going to be one of the best in the NFL now for sure. And obviously he wanted to join McDuffie, but who wouldn't want to join the Rams? I mean, this team is insanely stacked. They're definitely the Super Bowl favorites after this signing, before this signing, but certainly after this signing. What I like about Watson is he's very good against bigger receivers that play on the perimeter because he has really good length and really good height. And it's rare to find that combination that can also play in press and run fairly well. He's not slow. I wouldn't say he's fast. I think he got burnt in the Super Bowl over the top, a couple years ago for a touchdown. But it rarely happens. Like, he's been a part of one of the top cornerback groups in the NFL the last 3-4 years, and he has been a primary perimeter starter for them, taking on some of the toughest matchups in the NFL. And with McDuffie in the inside, with Watson on the outside, you can now defend pretty much any receiving core in the NFL because of that duo. So I think this is an excellent signing. I think this is, and again, the money is 3 years, 51, 34 guaranteed. That's pretty good money, but it's not outrageous for a player at this age that has already shown his upside, and he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, played in the biggest games you could play in. I think this is like an A-, a B+. It's a really good signing. And then you've got Jaelan Phillips to the Carolina Panthers, one of my man crushes of free agency. 4 years, $120 million is ridiculous. $30 million per year. I think it was like $80 million guaranteed off the top of my head. I don't have that written down, but I'm pretty sure. Jaelan Phillips is an awesome player. The biggest concern about Jaelan Phillips is his injury history. If he stays healthy, this is a home run. This is the best pass rusher the Panthers have had since Brian Burns. And I'd even argue, he's very similar in terms of the archetype. Like, when you watch him, you'll probably think of Brian Burns. Like, he's very bendy. He's very quick. He's agile. His speed and his ability to jump off the ball and win rapidly is evident. But I think Phillips actually provides much more versatility in terms of his ability to drop into coverage and also provide coverage ability. So I think for Evero, a guy that comes from that Vic Fangio school of thought, the Rams, same sort of deal where it's like, we want to have simulated pressures. We want to have disguised looks. We want to have guys that can rush the quarterback, but also drop into coverage. We want guys that are playmakers. This is a guy that played under Brian Flores, has played under Vic Fangio. He can rush the quarterback. He's been pretty consistently a top 10 pressure producer when he's been healthy. He's had major injuries, but always has come back and played just as well, if not better. Last year, he was a huge upgrade for the Eagles. You saw the jump once they acquired him. They went from like an average defense to back to an elite unit, and that was because of Phillips' ability to get to the quarterback. So I think with Derek Brown on the inside taking some of that double team, Phillips is going to feast, kind of like Jalen Carter working off Phillips last year. So I think this is a great signing for them. It's a little bit much. Like, the money is ridiculous, so I can't quite give it like an A, but I think it's a pretty strong B+. This is exactly the type of player that they needed. This is exactly the position they needed. This is exactly the type of, like, they needed a pass rush. Like, no pass rush needed this player more, and he's in his prime, so you have to love that about it. So I would say it's a B+. Some people are going to probably not like it because of the contract, but I'm still a fan of it. Malik Willis to the Miami Dolphins, probably the biggest signing of the day in terms of like substantial. It's the quarterback position. It was the number one quarterback on the board for a lot of people. 3 years, $67.5 million, 45 guaranteed. I think this is actually a really nice contract for Miami. Malik Willis has high upside. This is about as good as it can get for a potential bridge quarterback. Like, Malik Willis is not what I would say is a bridge quarterback because he's still very young. He could be the next Sam Darnold, like in terms of like guys that really develop into promising franchise quarterbacks. I think he's actually closer to becoming that than he is to becoming like some sort of failed bridge quarterback. Like, he isn't typically in that same lane of the Jacoby Brissetts and these guys that we've seen where it's like he's clearly more of a backup. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what Malik Willis is. Malik Willis has been plucked into the Packers lineup, and he has performed every single time. and he's a dynamic athlete with dynamic upside. He is electric. Like, his arm strength is real. His mobility is real. His ability to run, he's one of the best in the NFL. He brings a multidimensionality to an offense thanks to his legs. He can break sacks. He can create time by himself. He can ad-lib. And he's proven to be more accurate, more consistent with his reads. And I think just his consistency of throwing the football has really surprised me. His passer rating, his completion percentage, all those things will indicate through his stats. But when you just watch him with your eyes, he's a good player. I'm actually kind of scared as a Patriots fan watching this guy go to the Dolphins, because this is a quarterback that has much more physical upside and capability than Tua Tagovailoa. It's a clear upgrade. I think this is... The only thing is, like, he hasn't played a lot. I'll say it's not quite an A. It's an A-. I really think Malik Willis is good. I do. So I'm going to say it's an A-. Isaiah Likely to the New York Giants. This is weird to me, because why did Isaiah Likely want to sign with the coach that didn't really use him the first time around? Regardless, he got paid for it. 3 years, $40 million, with an upside of 47.5. And he finally escapes the dungeon of Mark Andrews. He's the third highest paid tight end in the NFL, which is pretty crazy. It also helps Jackson Dart, of course, getting him another threat. I really like how he could work off of Malik Neighbors, and he does in some ways replace Wan'Dale Robinson. Robinson got a massive contract. We'll discuss that in a second here. But in some ways he does, because he's a middle of the field threat that also can play the slot, but he's a bigger option in the slot position, potentially. So the Giants, I still think, need another receiver maybe. Darius Slayton is fine for a complementary force, but they need a kind of another guy. But Isaiah Likely, extremely athletic, really can run, can create after the catch. Not a great blocker, but he's a movable chess piece that can create one-on-one. You can create one-on-ones with him. He's always going to separate from linebackers and most safeties. You have to kind of treat him like a receiver. He's a good player. I would say this is... I mean, for a guy that has as limited of like a track record as him, to be the third highest paid tight end is a little expensive. I would say this is a B. I want to see how Harbaugh uses him. I want to see how Nagy uses him. Now, obviously, Nagy was in Kansas City, so he should have a good indication of how to use a tight end if they were with Travis Kelce the last few years. So if he can really, like, I really like Likely as a player. I'm just questioning him returning to Harbaugh a little bit, but I would say it's a B, because they definitely had to pay for his services. That's for sure. Jordan Stout, a punter to the Giants, from the Ravens. He's been a good punter for a number of years, 3 years, $12.3 million. Harbaugh values his special teams. He began as a special teams coach in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles, of course. That's how he got his job with the Baltimore Ravens. Stout's been an above-average punter in the NFL. Hopefully the Giants don't have to punt as much this year, but I think it's a solid signing for a guy that I think at this position is actually worth giving a contract to. A lot of guys might be replaceable and, you know, draft a rookie or whatever, but I think Stout has actually proven to be a pretty consistent punter in the NFL, so I think that's a solid signing. I would say it's a B. It's a punter. Next, Tremaine Edmonds to the Giants. He gets a 3-year, $36 million deal. That's about $12 million per year. I'm not sure on the guarantees or anything like that. I haven't quite seen that yet. But Edmonds, in terms of the defensive fit, we haven't really seen him play in this style of defense. We've seen him play in more of 4-3 prototypical styles. We've never really seen him play in like a 3-4 hybrid nickel defense sort of deal. We've seen him play under McDermott. We've seen him play under Eberflus, where he was signed to play for Chicago. And then I guess he got more of that flavor from Dennis Allen, but not exactly, right? Still like more of a 4-3 attacking style of defense. So there will be some differences here. I think Edmonds has always been an excellent athlete, and his good is really good, and his bad at times is really bad. Now, the one thing you can say about Edmonds is he's had great ball production. This past season, I think he had 4 picks. I think 2 years before that, he had like 5 or 6. So he has a lot of like interceptions. He gets his hands on the football. He's really good at reading, reacting to the quarterback and playing that middle of the field. And the reason for that is he's very big and tall and long. And he's very athletic and rangy. So he's like 6'5", like 260. And he just got ginormous arms. He's got to be a bit better in the run game and more consistent. But I think within a different style of defense, it might be fascinating to see if he finally actually develops in that area. But I would say this is obviously a position of need. I would say this is like a B. Good player, has been a little overrated. If he could continue to turn the ball over, though, for them, then maybe he's more of a B plus, A minus potentially. And he's still kind of young. Then we've got John Simpson, the only signing for the Ravens, I believe, a 3-year, $30 million deal. Have been kind of quiet since acquiring Max Crosby. John Simpson returns to the Ravens. I believe he used to play for the Ravens not that long ago before signing with the Jets. He fits, obviously, what they're looking for in terms of big, downhill, mauler, run blocker, and I think upgrades their guard position slightly. Played extremely well for the Jets in 2024, had a bit of a dip in his play in 2025, so it was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of his production, but I think in terms of his run blocking, he's always been very strong, and I think that's the aspect that he'll really get the Ravens, a little bit of an upgrade there. So John Simpson, solid move. I'd say this is an upgrade at the guard position for them. I'd say this is a B. Wan'Dale Robinson to Tennessee. Now we're going to Tennessee, who made a lot of deals here. So Wan'Dale Robinson is fascinating because it's very expensive. $70 million with an upside of 78. Wow, for a slot receiver who many question whether or not he is mostly, the reputation he has been given is because of the volume he has seen, a lot of garbage time moments, a lot of injuries, like guys like Malik Neighbors. Obviously, Brian Daboll loves him. That's the connection here. Robert Saleh is trusting Brian Daboll and getting the pieces for Brian Daboll. And remember, guys, Brian Daboll loves slot receivers. Why? Well, he used to be a Patriots coach. Think about all those Patriots slot receivers throughout the heyday. Troy Brown, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola. Brian Daboll was there for all of that, and he saw all of that. And Wan'Dale Robinson, he's going to play that role of slot, Cole Beasley in Buffalo. Another one. He's kind of Cole Beasley-esque, actually, when you kind of think about it. The thing I like about Wan'Dale is he's very young. He's a very good complementary receiver in terms of playing the slot, where he's one-dimensional in that regard, but he's very quick, shifty, good after the catch, and good in the short ranges of the field. He's going to get open rapidly, and he's going to catch the ball and convert into an after-the-catch player, and that's going to be effective for Cam Ward. And the other thing that's effective for Cam Ward's really good at those RPOs and those quick glancing routes. I think Wan'Dale Robinson will be very effective there. I like the fit in the offense, and I do think he'll be very productive. I do think this is an overpay for his style of player that particularly isn't effective unless he sees a lot of volume, which is give and take. Like, he's not a downfield target at all, and he doesn't have electrifying speed, and he doesn't have great versatility. So he's one-dimensional, and he's volume dependent. So I would say this is... I like that they got a receiver, and I think he's actually probably going to lead the team in receptions. So it's hard to complain, but that's also speaking about the Titans' current situation. So it's like, I'd give it a B. Because, I understand why this happened. I totally get it. At the same time, I think it's maybe an overpay and a little bit much for this player. Then we've got John Franklin Myers, who also got a pretty nice contract. 3 years, $63 million. The Titans are going full Patriots from last year, just paying their guys a lot of money. Daboll with Robinson, Franklin Myers, solid player, obviously from his Jets days. Has that inside-outside pass rushing versatility, defensive lineman alignment. He can play edge on early downs. He can play inside on later downs. Was very effective besides Zach Allen in Denver as an interior pass rusher. Very good interior pass rusher, one of the best in the NFL. And the one thing I'll say about that is the interior pass rush has been a huge part of winning in the NFL lately. We saw this from teams like the Seahawks with Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams, New England with Christian Barmore, and obviously Milton Williams. Then we saw the Eagles with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams last year. The Rams in the NFC Championship, right? The Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship. John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen. So interior defensive line has been heavily critical the last few years. And to me, it's always been the most underrated aspect of defense. Interior pressure is the most indefensible thing you can have in the NFL, right? So I think this is a good, really good player. I think it's a tough time to pay him because he is kind of getting to that point where he could fall off. And he's around 30. So it's like a little bit of a weird spot, but he obviously knows the defense. He's familiar with the coaching staff. I think his D-line coach is also there from his Jets days. So there's a lot to like about the player, the fit, the position. It's just that the age is kind of like, you don't really want to be paying this guy the best contract of his career at this point. So to me, it's a B+, because I definitely understand it could backfire, though, in some ways. I would say it's a B+, depending on what happens. Mitchell Trubisky, another Brian Daboll guy, backup quarterback here for the Titans, a good one, a talented one. He's got good mobility, really good arm strength, a former second overall pick in the NFL, 2-year deal for him to back up Cam Ward, has experience playing behind Josh Allen, of course, playing in one of the best offenses in the NFL, playing behind one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, has had some starting time, has gone through some high expectations of playing as, a first round pick for the Chicago Bears. So I think there's going to be a lot that he can provide for Cam Ward, and also the stability he can allow for Brian Daboll. I think this is a good signing, actually. I would say this is like, for, on the spectrum of what this means for the team. Obviously, he's just like a backup, but I would say this is a strong backup signing. I didn't see the numbers, but I don't think it's much. It's probably around like 10 to 15 million total. So I would probably say this is like an A- in terms of like the fit, what it means for the team, all that stuff. He can go in and win you a game. So I would say it's like B+, A- given the backup situation. Then Daniel Bellinger, this might have been the worst signing I saw all day in terms of the money. Like, this made no sense. Daniel Bellinger, 3 years, $24 million. Now, this must be heavily incentivized because Bellinger has had some success in the NFL, but it was very early in his career. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, and he has since been surpassed in New York on the depth chart. And, I mean, Brian Daboll was there in New York, so, like, obviously he likes him because they brought him in to play for him, and he's a good blocker, and he's decently, well-rounded at the Y spot, playing in line, but like, this is an overpay and a half. Like, I think you could have got him for like 1 year, $4 million. Like, $24 million. Now, I don't know all the contract details, but yeah, this is like a C-. Like, I don't understand this. He's not athletic or fast or twitchy. Like, he's more of a blocker. Like, this is an overpay. Austin Schlottman, not really going to pretend to know much about him. I'm pretty sure he played in New York for Brian Daboll again. Backup quality offensive lineman. Maybe he has a chance to compete at the center position to start. He was obviously signed on day one because the Titans really regarded him highly, although not anyone had him ranked anywhere near a day one signing. So I'll say it's a C+. It could be a B. If he ends up being a starter of any regard, it's probably more of a BB+, but I would say it's a C+. I don't know too much about him, to be honest. And if I don't know that much about him, I mean, yeah, good luck. Cordell Flott to the Tennessee Titans. I think he's okay. I think he's better regarded among a lot of other people than me. I think he's more of a backup corner to me, like more of a fourth corner than a second corner, but he's clearly signed here as a second corner. 3 years, $45 million, 32 guaranteed. I would give this a C. Like, I am not a huge Cordell Flott fan. I think that in this defense, though, I think he might be a better fit. I will say that. Like, Robert Saleh is not going to play the same system that they played in New York. So I don't think it will be as man-centric that it was in New York. I think there'll be a lot more quarters coverages, cover 3. So a lot more zone coverage based. That might suit him more. He's going to be more of a perimeter corner for them. They also signed another corner that I do like. But I think this was an overpay for a player that I think is not really a very good starting caliber player. Now, maybe some Giants fans disagree with me, but this is just my personal opinion. I would give it a C. Okay, Alontae Taylor. Alontae Taylor is a really nice signing. 3 years, $60 million, 42 guaranteed. What this makes me think of is Robert Saleh's Lenore. That's what it makes me think of. Lenore from the San Francisco 49ers, a player that can play inside, can play outside, can travel with receivers if need be, but he's also in better than Lenore in terms of tackling, playmaking, blitzing. And that's where I'm kind of thrown off in terms of the fit. Like, I feel like he's done more in New Orleans than maybe Tennessee will ask him to do. That being said, maybe they ask him to play more perimeter corner in Tennessee. We'll have to see. I don't know. Like, he played quite a bit in New Orleans last year, but he's been primarily a nickel corner throughout his career. So I really like the fact that he can play inside or outside. I like the fact that he is very good in terms of tackling. I like the fact that he plays with an energy. He plays with a fire that I think Robert Saleh always covets in his players. He plays with a speed, a level, like a play speed that is really aggressive. And he's going to add playmaking to a defense that desperately needs it. I love all that. It's maybe a little expensive, like considering what Jamel Dean went for. $60 million, $42 million guaranteed is, I think, more than Jamel Dean's entire contract. And you couldn't really tell me that, Taylor is better than Jamel Dean, like, right now. But Taylor is more versatile, and he makes a lot of unique plays for the corner position. You look at his forced fumbles, his sacks, his tackles. So, really good signing. I would say this is like potentially a B+. Now let's go to Tampa Bay. Kenneth Gainwell. This was confusing to me to a certain degree. 2 years, $14 million, 10 guaranteed. I love the player. I think the contract is good. I think Kenneth Gainwell is a really good player. I think he's actually very underrated. He's an excellent receiver, really good route runner, great presence out of the backfield for Baker Mayfield to work with. Essentially replaces Rachaad White in a third down type of role. Bucky Irving will still be the primary ball carrier, but what confuses me about it is the fact that him and Bucky are almost very similar in terms of their archetype and the style of player. Maybe they want that overlap. But, the more that I think about it, it's probably more of a replacement for Rachaad White, but Kenneth Gainwell was so impressive last year in terms of being like a 600, 700 yard rusher. And then he was over 1,000-yard player, like total yards. He had like 70 catches last year. He was the Steelers' offensive MVP last season. That's how good he was. He was very efficient as a runner. He was underrated as a Philadelphia Eagle. But yeah, the more I think about it, it is probably more of a Rachaad White third down kind of change of pace role, which suits Kenneth Gainwell extremely well off of Bucky Irving. But I just wonder, like, he's almost the same player. So that it is weird. But I would say I love the player. So I'd give it a B+, and it's a good contract. Alex Anzalone. 2 years, $17 million. Anzalone's on the down end of his career, I would say. He is coming off the most statistically impressive season of his career. Not that I think he played the best, but the Lions were willing to let him go for a reason. He was really good in the first couple of years with the Lions in terms of his coverage responsibilities, his ability to fly around and make tackles, and he's always been probably more of a cover linebacker in terms of what they ask him to do in terms of covering tight ends at the linebacker position, which is rather difficult, kind of like a Matt Milano-esque style of player. And he does improve the Bucs in that regard. But that being said, he's on the downslope of his career. He's getting a tick slower. I do wonder how he'll be utilized as a blitzer. The Lions did like to blitz quite a bit, and Anzalone has really good acceleration, which is probably what Todd Bowles liked on the tape, is like that ability to hit your back foot and just excel downhill, kind of like Devin White used to do for Tampa Bay. That was his best feature about him in that defense. I could see why they signed him. They clearly needed a linebacker. I think the style of player they get better in coverage because of Anzalone. I think they get a bit quicker if he's playing at his best. He has injury concerns. He is a little older. I would say it's a B. I think it's a B. It's definitely a good position that they needed. Travis Etienne, the New Orleans Saints, are next up. 4 years, $52 million. 13 per year, I believe it is. It's a bit of an overpay for a good, not great running back, but I really like the situation for him. I think rather as a compliment to Alvin Kamara in his early days here, or later days for Kamara in New Orleans, and or just a pure every down back, Etienne is a really good player. He's explosive. He's more powerful than you would think, especially in the lower half of his body. He's a smooth receiver with the football, and he can carry the load on every down. And I think that's something that Kellen Moore does like in his offense. I think having potentially two guys that are very effective as receivers, a long-term replacement for Alvin Kamara if they don't trade him right away. I think Travis Etienne is going to be an explosive element for Tyler Shuck, a reliable feature in the check down and screen game, and a guy that can just help the offense all around and make them better in the run game. So I think this is at least a B, probably more of a, yeah, I would say it's a B, because like $13 million for Travis Etienne. I think that makes him at least a top 7 paid running back in the NFL. It's just fairly expensive. I mean, he's been a pretty productive player. I think like 4 1,000-yard seasons. I do think this definitely makes them a better team, though. There's no question about it, even if it was a little bit of an overpaid. David Edwards is the one that really kind of surprised me, but I was also not surprised in terms of the position, but I was surprised they were this aggressive at acquiring David Edwards because he was one of the top guards on the market. I really like this move for them. 4 years, $61 million. David Edwards is a really good player. $15 million per year. Huge payday for him. He's a really good guard, though. He's probably a top 15 guard in the NFL. He's a really effective pass blocker, and he's really effective in the run game in space. And I think he kind of completes their offensive line when you really look at it. Their biggest weakness on the O-line now is probably Ruiz, which is not so bad. You know, Eric McCoy at center is really good, and then they've got the 2 young tackles in Banks and Fuaga. This could be one of the most improved offensive lines in football, and I think they paid Edwards to kind of sustain and kind of overall complete that offensive line, protect Tyler Shuck, run the football. This correlated with Etienne makes so much sense to get that run game going. Edwards has been a part of that Bills run game that has been so effective. I think this is like A-. Like, it's a little bit a lot for a guard, but I think it's a perfect fit, the perfect position that they needed, and the perfect time to get this player. So I love it. Ryan Wright, they signed, is the punter from the Vikings. This is a 4-year, $14 million, $8 million guaranteed. Just wanted to bring it up. I mean, I haven't studied Ryan Wright's punting. I couldn't really tell you how good he is as a punter. But they got a punter. That's all I'm really going to say. You know, I'll give it a C+. Next, John Ridgeway, rotation defensive lineman. Fine pickup for them. 2 years, $6.2 million. You know, he's just going to rotate in there on the interior defensive line. He's probably like a 4th defensive tackle, maybe a 3rd in a good defensive line. Then you've got Noah Fant. Noah Fant's an interesting signing as well. Pretty good run blocker, you know, dating back from his first-round pick days out of Iowa. Very athletic. And I like how he could be used for Kellen Moore, like as a complement to Juwan Johnson and what they already have. So he's essentially a run-blocking tight end that also gives you like real juice, which is always kind of interesting to me. So he can complement. I think he can add to, again, this theme of David Edwards, Travis Etienne, juice and athleticism and run game. So 2-year deal for Noah Fant. Played with the Cincinnati Bengals last year. Really effective in the screen game. Has unreliable hands, isn't exactly great against zone coverage, but he won't be asked to be a high-octane receiver. He's more going to be asked to play in those 2 tight end formations, which I think he's more than capable of. And then James Pierre moving to the Minnesota Vikings. This was a very good gem signing. This was one of the best of the day in terms of that sort of category. 2 years, $8.5 million, 3.7 guaranteed. 2.5 signing bonus. James Pierre was the number 1 corner in coverage grade, according to PFF last season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is basically, you know, what they did last year with signing the Eagles corner. And for some reason, his name is slipping my mind. I don't know if I'm going to remember it while I'm recording this, guys, but the Eagles corner they signed, who became their number 1 corner this year. Everyone knows who I'm talking about right now, who I can't remember his name for some reason. This is essentially the same thing. He played the number 2 corner for the Steelers in aspects, or in late last year, I would say. And so in a similar defense, Mike Tomlin, Brian Flores, in terms of they've had a relationship. Flores coached in Pittsburgh, so he knows that system well. He knows what their assignments are. He knows how that will correlate to the system. Pierre's also got really good height and length, and probably on the slower end of things, but showcased a capacity to play some man coverage. I think he's better in zone coverage, and when the Steelers sort of shifted to playing more zone when Jaelan Ramsey came on board to play the nickel position and then play safety, Pierre stepped in a bigger role. So I think this is a really nice signing for the Vikings. I could see him being their 3rd corner or their 2nd perimeter corner and providing an upgrade for the Vikings and actually having a little bit of a breakout season. That's going to haunt me, that name. I don't. Damn, man. Cade Mays to the Detroit Lions. The Lions went to work on the offensive line today. Cade Mays, 3 years, $25 million, $14 million guaranteed. Center from Carolina. I thought he was going to get a pretty good contract. He did end up getting $14 million guaranteed. That's a pretty nice contract for the Lions, I would say. Like, this is a starting caliber center. I would say above average. I would say he's definitely top 20 in the league. A clear upgrade over Graham Glasgow, as well as being just as affordable. But the thing you got to love about it, he's only 26 or 27. He's just hitting his stride. He's just hitting his peak. And he's barely gotten an opportunity. You know, if not for injuries last year, he probably wouldn't have gotten an opportunity with Carolina to really play a lot. But when he got his opportunity, he proved it. And the thing about Carolina, they were a downhill smash mouth, run blocking type of style of team. That's exactly what the Lions want to be. This is going to help Jared Goff. It's going to help Jahmyr Gibbs. It's going to replace Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, and really help the interior offensive line, which they clearly needed help within. Then you've got Larry Borom to the Lions. I think that's how you say his last name. He played for Miami last year. I know that. Played tackle, actually started for them. I don't see the money. I haven't seen the money yet. But this is interesting because obviously Taylor Decker was released. I think he might be the swing tackle. That would make sense to me. Maybe they'll have someone else step up and be the starter. I don't know if they're going to move Penei Sewell to the left side or not, but I believe Borom played right tackle last year, if I'm not mistaken, for Miami. He actually played okay. I thought he was very serviceable as a starter. I actually thought Miami's offensive line in general, for the pieces that they were given, played pretty well. And obviously very functional in the run game. So that's probably what they really liked about him, is just that movement in the run game, playing for Mike McDaniel and that style of offense. So solid swing tackle / high-end backup caliber player. Then we've got Kobe Bryant to the Chicago Bears. Really nice signing for them. 3 years, $40 million. This was honestly kind of less than I thought for Kobe Bryant. $25 million guaranteed. 7 interceptions the last 2 years. He started 34 games with Seattle, one of the best defenses in football. Obviously, last year, arguably the best. And then the year previous, one of the best defenses. He has 7 interceptions, 7 forced fumbles, and 17 pass defense. Just really talented player. Really good at not allowing big plays. Really good at free safety in particular. Great at lurking the football, playing the football. Coverage assignment sound. Has versatility in terms of free safety to nickel. He's kind of like a CJ Gardner-Johnson, but more responsible, smarter, less of a weirdo, and just like, yeah, a big play specialist like CJ Gardner-Johnson, but then also like just more reliable, I would say. Really good range. Excellent signing. I think he could be Marcus Williams for Dennis Allen, that type of player potentially. But he can kind of do everything. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him. I think this is, I don't even know if by the way, if I graded the previous signings. So if you are still listening to this as Lions fans, I'd give, what did I say? Did I say anything? James Pierre for the Vikings. I basically glowingly said like B+. Cade Mays for the Lions. This is so many signings, guys. I'm kind of losing it. Cade Mays to the Lions. I would say like a B. I would say a B. And then Larry Borom, I would say like a B. And then Kobe Bryant. This one is more of an A-. I think this is an excellent signing. I think it's going to be very good for them. Then Devin Bush. I really like this one. I do question the fit. 3 years, $30 million, 21 guaranteed, a pretty modest contract. He was really good last year. I love his speed. I love his range. I love his sideline to sideline capability, and I love his downhill aggressiveness. He is undersized. I do wonder how he fits in this style of defense. Just because I don't think I've ever seen a linebacker this small in this defense before. I could be wrong. He could maybe be used as like the downhill. He might be used as how Alex Anzalone used to be used by Dennis Allen. Or he could be, like, I don't really know. Like, is he going to be the blitzer guy? Or is he going to be the sideline to sideline? It's going to be interesting. I don't really know. So this one's kind of fascinating. But I thought he had an excellent season for the Browns last year. He was very highly graded. His coverage grades were off the charts. He made a ton of plays. I think he led the NFL in interception yards, by the way. So yeah, very, very good speed, very good range in terms of sideline to sideline capacity. Upgrades the Bears in terms of their overall speed of their defense. And that's very helpful against Detroit and Jahmyr Gibbs and the Lions and their horizontal passing. That's very helpful against Green Bay. So I like what they're thinking here, but I do wonder about the fit. So I'd give it a B, I think. Next, Neville Gallimore, who's a solid interior defensive lineman, backup, more of like a third defensive tackle. That's kind of how he was used with the Colts. Better pass rusher than he is a run defender. I think that's exactly what the Bears needed. Maybe also sort of an indication on whether or not Javon Dexter will get traded, because he's a similar player to Dexter in terms of the archetype. I would give this a B-. Next, did I miss anybody? No, they only had 3 signings. I feel like the Bears had more for some reason, but the Commanders had a couple. Amik Robertson to the Commanders, former Detroit Lion, 2 years, $16 million, 9.3 guaranteed. I think it's a really nice signing. Really good contract, 9.3 guaranteed on 2 years. That's very affordable. I think he's a starting NFL corner, and he can play nickel or outside. I really like his style of play, and I think he fits Dan Quinn. I know that some Commanders fans have said that Dan Quinn has no responsibility in the defense anymore, but if they still want to play a lot of man coverage, I think that Amik Robertson's man match capacity is exactly what they're looking for. His ability to just like have quick hips and swivel with receivers and kind of be able to be in their hip pocket and break up passes, his competitiveness in terms of his down-to-down capacity. And then he's pretty aggressive for a smaller corner in terms of like his press ability and stuff like that. He gets in your face. He's a solid tackler. This is a really good signing. I would say this is B+. And then Odafe Owe, this to me is an overpay. 4 years, $100 million. I didn't see the guaranteed money, but he had 10.5 sacks with the Chargers. He probably performed last year like a top 20 edge in the NFL, but he's not as good as Jaelan Phillips, and he nearly got Jaelan Phillips money. 4 years, $100 million. I think Jaelan Phillips got close to 100 and something on a nearly identical contract. This scares me because Owe has only really been a really good pass rusher for about half a season. So he's been good throughout his career, but never great outside of half a year. Now, maybe he finally broke out. Maybe. But this feels like an overpay. Certainly a position of need. Certainly very athletic, freaky athletic. Like fast, long, powerful, super upside. Still to develop potentially. Former first-round pick. And probably fits their shift in their system. But overpay. So I would say it's a C+. Because I understand the need, but I can't really give it a full grade. Tyler Linderbaum to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders went to work today. Holy smokes. Tyler Linderbaum, former Raven. He got a $81 million deal, $60 million guaranteed. Highest paid interior offensive lineman in the NFL. This is, to me, okay, he's a great player. He's probably a top 5, top 3 center in the NFL, and he's in his prime, and he's still young. So because of that, this contract could look good in 2 years. So I would say this is like a B+. But paying a center this much money is pretty crazy. That being said, he's a perfect fit for Clint Kubiak. And a center is very valuable for a young quarterback, Mendoza, and very valuable in the zone run blocking system. So because of the movement and the ability to cut lanes and the ability to cut off defenders and stuff like that, I would actually bump this. But he's like $7 million. I was going to say A-, but he's like $7 million more than the next center in the league, which is just insane. So yeah, I would say it's a B+, because I totally love it. I just feel like it's a lot of money. Then Jalen Nailor, really sneaky signing by them. They signed Jalen Nailor to a 3-year, $35 million, 23 guarantee. Overpay for sure for a player that has been nothing more than a complimentary third receiver. But I've always really enjoyed watching Jalen Nailor whenever he's on the field. I think he's very underrated. I think he certainly could be a second receiver in the league. He's seen as a progression candidate, kind of like a Kendrick Bourne when he was signed from the Niners to New England. He could be that sort of like take that next step. And I wonder how much influence Tom Brady had on that. But I do think that he's like, I would say this is a C+, because this feels expensive for a player that doesn't have a lot of production, but the upside does exist, and the need obviously existed. Kwity Paye to the Raiders. He got a 3-year, $48 million deal. Solid amount of money for the player. I think it's a little bit too much money, but I think it makes sense. I mean, he fits to me. I do wonder if he's the exact type of player that they're looking for in this defense. I wonder where he's going to play. Like, that's my question. I don't really know where he's going to play for this defense. Is he going to play like more of a 3-4 end, or is he going to play like an edge? I would assume an edge, because I've never really seen him play that position. So maybe he'll have versatility within the defense. He's had multiple 8-sack seasons. He's a former first-round pick. He's extremely athletic. He doesn't miss a lot of games. He's really good against the run. I would say he's better against the run than the pass. Very stout player and very good motor. Not an excellent pass rusher, though, which is why his contract wasn't too high. But solid NFL starter for sure. Nakobe Dean, really nice signing for them. 3 years, $36 million, $20 guaranteed. Concern with him is injuries and his size. I think he's an excellent signing for their system, though. Played under Vic Fangio in Philadelphia, played at Georgia, was the leader of that defense. Great blitzer. I think he'll be unleashed by this defense. Big-time playmaker, very smart player. I think he'll provide a lot in terms of that sort of well-roundedness there. And the leader of the defense. Like, he could be the leader of this defense moving forward post Max Crosby. So I really like that for them. So I'd give this an A-. Maybe B+ because of the injury history. Quay Walker was the last signing I looked at before I went live, or not live, but before I started recording. So I need to check the contract on this if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it in front of me, just in case. I don't see it. Come on. Anything? Quincy Williams. Okay. Oh. I can't find it, guys. Where is it? Come on. Jeez, how many players signed since I started this video, bro? It's crazy. Are you serious? And I can't even find it. Nobody tweeted it. So I don't even really know what it is. But just thinking about the player and the fit, I'm going to call it a B. He's an inconsistent player with a ton of upside. Immense potential. Very fast. Very athletic. Great length. Great size. He has all pro potential. He's just kind of up and down. Inconsistent. Very good range. I think like the combination between him and Dean is excellent. Like, I love that combination. I think that's like an A. But like Dean being more of the cerebral downhill backer, while Quay Walker is more rangy, athletic, coverage oriented. I love how they'll play off of each other. I think that's a really nice aspect of this. But I think as an independent piece, given the contract that I'm expecting for him, I think he'll be overpaid a little bit. I would probably say it's probably like a B, but I don't know. I can't really tell you, to be honest. Then we've got the Arizona Cardinals, Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier, 2 years, $12 million. Good, solid contract. I think, honestly, underpaid for Tyler Algier, who's a borderline RB1, has rushed for 1,000 yards multiple times in his career. Really good red zone running back, really tough physical runner, a grinder, nice compliment to James Conner, could potentially actually outplay him this year given James Conner's age, and maybe shift James Conner to more of a pass-catching role potentially. I think this is a A-. Really good signing for them, very cheap. Gardner Minshew, I don't like this signing at all. I love Gardner Minshew as a personality and as a backup locker room presence. He's an excellent teammate, but I don't think he has anything left as a quarterback. Like 1 year, $8.25 million, more of a 5.75 with 8.25 being incentivized. I would say this is like a C. I don't think Gardner Minshew is a backup anymore. I think he's more of like a third string. He has no arm strength at all. He's had so many injuries. Like, I just don't like it at all. But Algier, I do like. Now, Mike Evans, probably the one I'm most excited about. I got to give this an A, maybe even an A+. I think the only thing I would say about it is, reason it wouldn't be an A+, is Mike Evans' age and his injury kind of, not that he's had major injuries, but like hamstrings, and it's the 49ers, and you got to deal with that whole deal. But this is a really good contract for the Niners. It's 3 years, $60 million. And I'm sure if we broke this down, it would be probably front loaded. And the last year of the contract is probably like cuttable / very workable. And so I think you can reconstruct his contract next year, the year after, if you want to keep him. Like, I think this is going to be a very team-friendly contract, but I think this is exactly what the 49ers need. The Niners have not had a big physical receiver really in the Kyle Shanahan era at the X receiver position. And I'm really excited to see what Kyle can do with Mike Evans, because he's worked with those style of players before. Andre Johnson, Julio Jones, Pierre Garçon, those like physical X receiver types. Mike Evans is one of the best of all time at that. 1,000 yards 11 times. He unlocks a style from the San Francisco 49er offense that is exciting. Downfield element, interior in-breakers, outside the number beater. Like, this is the guy that you needed to beat Seattle. Like, this is a huge influence on how you're going to play moving forward. And I'm very excited because I think Mike Evans is still a very good receiver. Like, I think he's a top 20 receiver still in the NFL. Last year, he had major injuries to his collarbone, I believe it was, and then his hamstring. But the year before that, he was still really top notch, like top 10 in the league. So as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to be at least a complement to this offense at a high level, like a 1B, if not still being an excellent player. So I'm really excited for Mike Evans. I'm really excited for Kyle Shanahan. I love the person. I love the leader. He's a great guy to have in the locker room. He's going to fit right into San Francisco. The fans are going to love him. So yeah, I think this is an A all the way. Then we got Adrian Lowe from my Patriots. 2 years, $12 million max, 5.75 guaranteed. I thought he played really well as a backup for the Patriots last year. He played about 4 games as a starter when Will Campbell was out, and he played well. I didn't even notice that our left tackle was missing, which is a big compliment. The year before, he was a full-time starter for the Patriots, and he was bad, like outright terrible. Maybe the worst starting tackle in the league. But as a swing tackle, as like a pinch starter, as a guy that out of desperation you need to play, he's good. So like I would say like he's like Jaelan Moore. I think Jaelan is his first name, I think, from Kansas City. He used to play in San Francisco. He's essentially like a high-end backup tackle that can play left or right, particularly left. So he could be, if you trade Trent Williams, at least you have a guy that can start. And he got a lot better last year when the Patriots improved their coaching. That's also an influence as well. So I would say that's a B+. Zion Johnson to the Browns. Zion Johnson, $49.5 million, 32.4 guaranteed. I like his age, 3 years, former first-round pick, very highly coveted in the draft process a few years ago. Zion Johnson is fine. He's never lived up to his billing. I think this is an overpay, too expensive for my liking. $32 million, 3 years, never been proven to be above-average guard. Does have potential to be better, so there's aspects I like, but I would give it a C+. They needed this position. It's an overpay, though, and he hasn't exactly lived up to the hype. Next, Arden Key to the Indianapolis Colts. I've always liked Arden Key. 2 years, $20 million, $11 million guaranteed. I don't think he's ever played for Lou Anarumo at all, but 30.5 career sacks, 16.5 over the past 3 years. It's a nice value signing as a third edge rusher. He fits really well. He can even be a starter if you need him to. He was in Tennessee, but I prefer him as a third guy in the rotation, particularly on passing downs, where he can be utilized as a blitzer, as a hybrid drop coverage defensive end. I like him in this system because he's very athletic. He's very good on twist, stunts, and games, and he's also very capable of dropping into coverage. So I really like him as an outside linebacker / defensive end. So I think this is a really good fit in the defense, very affordable contract. I'd say this is a high B+, B+ type of move. Tyler Biadasz. The Chargers did sign Biadasz way before free agency even began, a couple days, maybe even like a full day at least, but 3 years, $30 million. good starting center, like above average starting center, top 15 center in the NFL, was very underrated for the Commanders in their NFC Championship pursuit 2 years ago, opened up their run game big time, really reliable player, grinder inside, and I love his contract, $4 million in 2026. That's perfect. Then later on, he gets 12 and 13 in the next 2 years. So you can see if it works. It's a bit of an experiment. And then from there, you can get him paid. But I think Biadasz is a really underrated player. He definitely upgrades that position for them. One of their biggest weaknesses last year. I think this is an A-, B+. It's a really good signing. Alec Ingold, obviously we knew this was going to happen with Mike McDaniel. 2 years, $7.5 million. He's a fullback, but he does unlock what Mike McDaniel wants to do. So I'd say this is a B. I mean, he's a good blocker. He can get a little involved in the pass game, but he knows Mike McDaniel, his motions. It's a weird guy that no one really ever watches when he's on the field, but he allows these offensive coaches to deploy the personnel and the style at which they want to play. So I got to give that at least a B. He's a fullback. Charlie Kolar, another interesting one. So we saw the Chargers pick up a center, a fullback, and a blocking tight end. A little bit much for a blocking tight end in Charlie Kolar. $24.3 million in 3 years, but he's one of the best in the NFL. You know, according to many people, he's not going to make much of an impact as a receiver. I do wonder, you know, if the Chargers could use more of a receiving element at that tight end position, but regardless, he's going to help Mike McDaniel with his run scheme. It's particularly the outside zone run scheme where you use those tight ends kicking out and getting into space and blocking. So I think Charlie Kolar is a good, smart signing for them. It makes a lot of sense. I would give it a B+. I really like what the Chargers did in terms of there's a clear identity here. There's a clear thing they're going for. They're getting that run game kick-started with these 3 signings. I think they've all made a lot of sense to complement Justin Herbert. Finishing off, we got 3 more signings. Boye Mafe to the Cincinnati Bengals, an upgrade for the defense of Cincinnati. We got 2 big signings by them on defense. 3 years, $60 million. Made a lot of sense in terms of the money and the contract I expected for him. Really good pass rusher that I think is just entering his prime. Has not played a real starter role in the NFL in Seattle. Has been more of a complimentary pass rusher for many seasons in Seattle. More of a rotation player, but really good pure pass rusher. Really good speed. Really good, bend off the edge, can get to the quarterback, can cause havoc, can make plays, can strip the ball. That is the replacement for Trey Hendrickson. Much younger, probably much less expensive, certainly short term, but can make an impact as a pass rusher. That's what the Bengals needed, and they got faster, quicker, twitchier, more explosive on the defensive front. Gotta love this. I think this is, if they weren't losing Trey Hendrickson, it would be an A. I think this is like an A-, a B+. And then Brian Cook of the Chiefs, $40 million on 3 years, $18 million in year 1 is expensive, but Brian Cook was arguably the best safety on the market, extremely reliable tackler, which Cincinnati has very much lacked in recent seasons, can play all over the defense from in the box to deep. He's very good in terms of his understanding in, 2 shells. He can play, like I said, all over the defense at that safety position, extremely reliable in all aspects, just entering his prime, very young. I think he's like 25, 26. He's like Trent McDuffie's age, around there. So this is a really good signing. I think this is, again, like a B+, A-. I love what Cincinnati did here. They got 2 players that are arguably just hitting their stride and could ascend to Pro Bowl caliber players, and they're maybe just signing them at the right time. Cook, you might argue, this one could be a little bit more downside in terms of if he doesn't work out like the recent safety signings, it might go bad, but I honestly think he's a really good player. So I think they got 2 players that are instantly going to impact their pass defense in particular. I think Brian Cook is a B+ too. And then ending it off, D. Alford to the Bills. It's a 3-year, $21 million, 10 guaranteed. Guarantees aren't too high. Alford, to me, I've never been a huge fan of. Had 3 interceptions last year, 13 passes defensed. Mostly a nickel corner, so he does replace Teron Johnson. I think he's okay at that position. I don't think he's great. I think he's probably worse than Taron Johnson overall, if I were to say, but he's younger. He's made more plays on the ball in recent years. He might be even a better cover guy, like a pure cover guy. But I don't love him. Again, like, I think he's just okay. So I would say it's a B. I totally understand. C plus B. I understand it. B minus. Like, I totally get it. But again, you moved on from Taron Johnson and you signed him. Maybe he was a little bit cheaper. I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe they wanted more long-term. I don't know what the Bills are doing most of the time. But D. Alford, I think it's like a B minus. Okay. So that ends it, guys. Long video, but I hope you got something out of it. Thank you for watching. We're going to have plenty more of these videos as free agency. I mean, they keep coming. The signings keep coming. I can never keep up, but I'm going to do my best to get every single signing graded, at least for the first week of free agency. Thank you for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Gronk, spike the like button. Comment below your thoughts. It's Mitch. Peace.